Welcome students. Today let us look at Companies Act of 1956 and 2013 and some of the recent amendments that are done to this particular act of 1956 and 2013. So this is the first part of a lecture series on the topic Companies Act of 1956. So let us move on and understand what is the meaning of this particular act. According to Lord Landley, a company is an association of many persons who contribute money or money's worth to a common stock and employ it for some common purpose. The common stock so contributed is denoted in money and is the capital of the company. The persons who contribute it or to whom it belongs are members. The portion of capital to which each partner is entitled is his share. Shares are always transferable, although the rights to transfer them is often more or less restricted. According to the section 3 1 subsection 1 of the Companies Act of 1956, company means a company formed and registered under this act or an existing company. An existing company means a company formed and regulated under any of the previous company laws. Okay, so this is the basic meaning of the company under the Companies Act of 1956, and some of the famous authors who have given the definitions of the company. So let us go back and try to understand some history about the Companies Act of 1956. The company legislation in India has developed on the lines almost parallel to the English company law. The Companies Act passed from time to time in India have been following the English Company Act with certain modification to suit Indian conditions. The English Companies Act of 1844 is treated to be the first enactment on modern system of joint stock enterprises. On that very line, the first Indian Companies Act providing for the registration of joint stock companies was passed in the year 1850, was repealed by the present Companies Act of 1956, which came into force on 1st April 1956. The Companies Act is based largely on the recommendation of the Company Law Committee, which submitted its report in March 1952. This act is largest statute ever passed by our parliament. It consists of 658 sections and 12 schedules. The act was amended several times since 1956. The latest amendments were affected in the year 2013 and 2019. The major applications of this act, where this particular act is applicable, let us try to understand. Point number one, the company formed or registered under the act. Point number two, companies formed or registered under previous company laws, that is existing companies according to section 561. Point number three, companies formed or registered under any previous company laws to the extent and the manner declared in part 9 of the Act, section 562. Point number 4, unlimited companies registered as limited companies in pursuance of any previous company laws, section 563. Point number 5, unregistered companies for the purpose of winding up under part 10 of the Act. This is covered in section 582 592 and 589. Point number 6, foreign companies, section 592 and 602. Point number 7, insurance companies expect, in so far as the provisions of Companies Act of 1956 are inconsistent with the provisions of Insurance Act of 1938. Banking companies expect, in so far as the provisions of Companies Act of 1956 are inconsistent with the provisions of Banking Companies Act of 1959. Point number 9, companies engaged in the generating or supply of electricity expect, in so far as the provisions of Companies Act of 1956 are inconsistent with the provisions of Indian Electricity Act of 1910 or the Electricity Supply Act of 1948. Such body corporate incorporated by any act from the time being in force as the central government may by notification in official gazette. Government companies as per section 617. This act does not apply to point number 1, companies established under the special act of parliament such as the Reserve Bank of India, Life Insurance Corporation of India, State Transport Corporation, etc. Partnership firms, cooperative societies, societies which are governed by the Societies Registration Act of 1860, trust which are governed by the Indian Trust Act of 1882. So this is a basic background of the Companies Act of 1956 and also the meaning of Companies Act of 1956. So, well, moving on to the next part, that is characteristics of companies. So these are a certain set of characteristics of companies. Point number 1, a separate legal entity. Point number 2, limited liability, perpetual succession, common seal, transferability of shares, separate property, capacity to sue. These are a list of characteristics of companies. Let us try to discuss these characteristics one by one. The first characteristics that we are going to discuss is separate legal entity. A company formed and registered under the Companies Act is a distinct legal entity. It is a creation of law and is sometimes called artificial person, being invisible and intangible. It is a fiction of law with legal but not natural or physical existence. The principle that a company is a legal entity separate from an individual who composes very clearly illustrated in the leading case of Solomon versus Solomon Company Limited of 1897. Next point, perpetual succession. Unlike a natural person, a company never dies. It is an entity with a perpetual succession. Its existence is not affected by death, lunacy, and insolvency of its members. A company is a juristic person with a perpetual succession. A company never dies, nor does its life depend on the life of its members. It is not in any manner affected by insolvency, mental disorder, or a retirement of any of its members. It is created by a process of law and can be put an end to only by a process of law. Next point is about limited liability. Limited liability of members is another most important characteristics of a company. Their liability is limited to the face value of shares subscribed to by them. If the shares are fully paid up, their liability is nil. Where the assets of the company are insufficient To meet the claims of the creditors of the company, the members cannot be asked to pay anything more than what is due on the shares of the company held by them. The company being a separate legal entity leading its own business life, the members are not liable for its debt. The liability of members of a company is limited to the extent of the nominal value of the shares held by them. In no event can a shareholder be asked to pay anything more than the unpaid value of his shares. In case of a company limited by guarantee, the members are liable only to the extent of the amount guaranteed by them and not beyond, and only when the company goes into liquidation. Next point is common seal. As a company is an artificial person, it cannot sign its name on a contract. Common seal is used as a substitute for its signature. Every company must have a seal with its name engraved on it. Anything done under an agreement between the company and the third party requires a recognition of the company in the form of an official seal. On incorporation, a company acquires legal entity with perpetual succession and a common seal. Since the company has no physical existence, it must act through its agent, and all such contracts entered into by its agent must be under the seal of the company. The common seal of the company is of a very great importance. It acts as the official signature of a company. The name of the company must be engraved on its common seal. A rubber stamp does not serve the purpose. A document not bearing common seal of the company is not authentic and no legal force behind it. Next point is transferability of shares. The capital of a company is divided into parts called shares. The shares are said to be movable property and subject to certain conditions, freely transferable, so that no shareholder is permanently or necessarily wedded to a company. The shares of a joint stock company are freely transferable. In the case of a private company, the Companies Act requires it to put certain restrictions on the transferability of shares. Every member owning fully paid up shares is at liability to dispose them off according to his choice, but subject to the articles of the companies. Section 82 of the Companies Act recognizes the rights of the transferability of shares and provides that the shares or other interest of any member shall be movable property transferable in the manner provided for the articles of the company. Next point that we are going to discuss is capacity to sue. On incorporation, a company acquires a separate and independent legal personality. A legal person, it can sue and be sued in its own name. Next point that we are going to discuss is separate property. As a legal person, a company can own, enjoy, and dispose of any property in its own name. No member can claim himself to the owner to be the owner of the company's property. The property of the company is not the property of the shareholders. It is the property of the company. Thanks for watching this video. Please like, share and subscribe this channel.